Good day, students, and welcome back to Metric Hub, your number one channel for all educational content and purposes. This is the channel that showcases a very brilliant and a very convincing material of learning tools for, or rather from grade 8 up till grade 12, and furthermore for tertiary and university students. And as I said previously, as we were doing section B, question 2.1 up till 2.2, this will be the second part of that question paper. So please go and subscribe and watch the first part of the video as we were doing circular flows and so forth and so forth. So the question that we did in part one will reconquer, or it will come together with part two. So without wasting any further time, let's get into it. So this is economics paper 1, June 2025. And 2.3, it states, study the information below and answer the questions that follow. So let's get a brief of what the information is about. So it says reasons for international trade. So we'll get more about what international trade is as we get into the questions. So countries can benefit through trade when they focus on their comparative advantage. Again, comparative advantage, these are the words that you must take into consideration. Firstly, international trade, and then comparative advantage. So countries can benefit through trade when they focus on their comparative advantage. This is because of widespread globalization, words like globalization, and increases in population size of countries. All right. So when we talk about such words such as international trade, comparative advantage, and globalization, this is how or what we will be focusing on these questions 2.3. All right. So these are the things that we'll be focusing on in 2.3. So as we move on to 2.3.1, it says identify an effect of international trade from the above information. So 2.3.1, it says identify an effect of international trade. Guys, I told you, remember to learn to understand the question before you answer it. Even if you might know what international trade is, or you might know the effects of international trade, try to understand what the question entails. So let's move on to our note. It says, identify, or rather, explain what international trade is, right? It says identify an effect of international trade from the above information. So we'll be first looking at what international trade is. So it states here that international trade is the exchange of goods and services between countries. So national, if it was national, it would have been between provinces. If it was national, it would have been between provinces. But it states here it's international. So it between countries. It's between certain or two or more nationals, which is between two or more countries. So international trade is the exchange. Remember what trade is. Trade, in simple terms, it's the exchange of goods or services, right? What is trade? So let's break down the word inter. Okay, let's quickly erase that. Let's rather break down the word international trade. The first one, it's international, which is between two or more countries, right? That's international. And what is trade? Trade is the exchange of goods or services. It's just that the exchange of goods or services. So when you combine these two, it's the exchange of goods and services between what two or more countries. That's what international trade is, right? So it says it's the exchange of goods and services between two countries. It allows nations to access products they cannot produce efficiently or affordably themselves. For instance, if say in South Africa we cannot create iPhones. That's where international trade comes in handy because now we can import such phones from other countries that are good at producing these type of phones, or if not even phones, maybe clothes, not even clothes, maybe a certain product that South Africa might need. If we don't have it as a country and we can't produce it as a country, it would be more, or rather more efficient for us to buy it from another country because we can't produce it in our own country. Again, let's go back to the question. Let's go back to the question. It says identify an effect of international trade from. So we're trying to find the effect of international trade. Now that we know what international trade is, the exchange of goods and services between two or more countries, we want to know what is the effect. How can it positively or negatively affect us? So it says here the effect of international trade, right? The effect of international trade. Number one, the first effect is that countries benefit by focusing on their comparative advantage. What is comparative advantage? When another country is more good at producing a product than another country. So what it says here, so let's go back here. So international trade is the exchange of goods and services between two or more countries. So when we talk about comparative, so we'll delve deep into comparative advantage as we move along. But just to give you an idea, comparative advantage is when a country is good at producing a product. So what they do when they are good at producing their product is that they focus on that advantage. So if we may break down the word comparative advantage, it's like when you are more in advantage away with your competition, when you are more advantageous when it comes to your competitors. So that's what comparative advantage simply means, right? So the first effect of international trade is that countries benefit by focusing on the comparative. So what it means is that if South Africa is good at producing milk, and let's say we produce milk, okay, let me just put it down. Let's say SA's comparative advantage, right? South Africa's comparative advantage. If SA is good at producing milk, it will focus most its resources on it. Why? That is called what? Comparative advantage. So South Africa is good at producing milk. It will focus most of its resources on it. On what? On milk. On producing milk. Right? And then South Africa also, so this would be the first one. And the second one, SA also produces butter. But it happens that Nigeria also produces butter, right? If it happens that Nigeria is good at it, is good at producing butter. If it happens that Nigeria is good at producing butter, that will be their comparative advantage. So they will focus on what? On producing butter. And South Africa will focus on what? On producing milk, because this is what they are good at. So that's what a comparative advantage simply means. It simply means that you will focus on the product that you are most good at producing so that you can be advantageous when it comes to your competitors, right? So that's the first effect of international trade, is that countries benefit by focusing on they focus on the product that they are best known for. And then number two, it is driven by globalization and growing population sizes. So remember, as the world, we need to grow. The world needs to grow. So international trade, it improves, or rather it gives into globalization so that population can grow, and as such grows, the economy of countries might grow, products might grow, and the profits of the businesses might grow because of such, because of the population and because of globalization. And then the third one, it promotes economic growth, job creation, and consumer variety. Right? So international trade, let's just put it there. Let's just say international trade promotes international trade promotes one. What does it promote? Economic growth. More exports equals growing economy, right? If more exports, if we as a country we sell more products to other countries, we get more money. We get in the form of exchange rate, we get more money. And that money can grow the economy. It's an injection to what? To the circular flow, right? This becomes an injection to the circular flow, right? And then the second one, it creates job creation. Now, if there is a demand for the product, demand for the product, more production will be, more production will be what? Will be required. And if more production is required, it means that more workers will be needed. Hence, what? Hence, job creation. Hence, now this will increase. Employment will then increase. And then consumer variety simply means that if more products are sold to countries, then people will have a chance of choosing which products they want. So this is what it basically means as the variety of products, right? What it means that consumer variety means that, or rather product variety. So there's a difference. There's product variety and then consumer variety. Consumer variety means that you'll be selling to more different people. So this one is product variety. If more products are sold to countries, then people will have a choice of choosing. That's product variety, right? This is product variety, meaning that people choose or can choose from a different type of product. Consumer variety, consumer variety, businesses now have a pool of consumers to sell to, right? Businesses can now sell to a lot of people. Because of what? Because of international trade. Remember now, you're not only selling in South Africa, but now you are selling across the world or across the globe because of, again, globalization. So this is product variety. So I mixed the two up, Mara. This is product variety where now people have more products to choose from. And then consumer varieties when businesses can sell to more than one type of consumer. So let's say a business from South Africa cannot now sell for South African people, but they can now sell to other countries, to your Nigerian countries, to your USAs, to your England. So they now have a variety of consumers or customers abroad or in the world, right? So let's move on, or let's rather go back to the question at hand. So identify an effect of international trade. So what is an effect? These are the effects. So countries benefit by focusing on the comparative advantages, the best product. They focus on their best product. Number two, it is driven by globalization and growing population size. If the world grows, more customers, more income, and then it promotes economic growth for the country, job creation, so more people will be employed because of the large pool of consumers. And then again, consumer variety, we are now selling to different people. All right. And then let's go to 2.3.2. Name one supply side. All right. Name one supply side reason for international trade. So let's first discuss what is supply side. What is supply side? 2.3.2, let's explain what is supply side. All right. As we move along. So, as it says here, supply side refers to the production capacity. It refers to the production capacity of a country. So what it means, production capacity, meaning how much a business can produce or how much a country can produce. How much or how many products can a country produce? Production capacity simply means how much or how many products can a country produce? The capacity, the full amount of it, right? Full amount. So how much or how many products can a country produce? Right? So that is production capacity. So the supply side refers to the production capacity of a country. Factors that affect the ability to produce goods and services. So how much can can a country produce based on what? The factors that will affect that particular product. So how much can we produce from a certain amount of, let's say, raw materials, right? How much milk can we produce based on a certain amount of cows? So it will depend on how much rather raw materials we have to produce a large amount of products or capacity amount of products, right? So that is what supply side means. It refers to the production capacity of a factor based on the factors that will affect that ability to produce those particular goods or services. So now let's move back to our question. What was the question? Name one supply side reason for international. So what is the reason for supply side in international trade? Right? The first one, it's abundance of natural resources. So if we have more, as a country, if we have more natural resources, then it's evident or it's productive to do what? To enter into an international trade. Because now we have more production capacity, we can offer the world, right? So this would be an example. Let's say, okay, let's put it here. Let's say, uh, let's say production capacity. Let's say we had 3 cows in SA for 20 people. So 3 cows equals for 20 people. But now we increase in what? In cows. Our cows increases. So these cows are only for 20 people in SA only. So there's no international trade based on this example. There's no international trade. But if now we have 7 cows, it means what? Our production capacity did what? It increased from 3 to 7. And still we have 7 cows for 20 people. Then it's evident or it's liable or it's viable. Then it's viable for SA to sell cows, or rather to export cows. So that goes to what? Abundance. Abundance of what? Abundance of natural resources. If we have more natural resources, it's easy for us to do what? To sell to other countries. All right. So a reason for a supply side uh, demand, or rather, yeah, supply side demand, it's for, or it's because of an abundance of natural resources. If we have more natural resources, it's easy for us to supply other countries. So first, we need to check our production capacity. How much do we have to actually produce products for ourselves so that we can, if we have more, sell to other countries, right? And then the second reason for supply side reasons for international trade will be skilled labor or advanced technology. If we have more skilled people, it will be easy for us to do what? To produce more. Because we have more people, or we have skilled workers who can produce more products, or advanced technology. We can produce more products within a short space or short period of time. So because of the skilled labor or advanced technology, we can produce more. So we can then, in that sense, sell to other countries, thus incorporating international trade. So if we have more natural resources, we can sell to other countries, international trade. If we have skilled labor or advanced technology to produce more products, we can sell to other countries. And then the third one is cost advantages. So what cost advantage simply means is that, so for that, what cost advantage means is that if, so let's say cost advantage, if we can buy materials for 10 rand, right? Then sell for 40 rand. It means that our production cost is low. And if our production cost is low, it means that we can produce more products. And by producing more products, it means that we can sell them to other countries. So that is what cost advantage means. It means that if we can spend less on producing a product, we can go on and produce more. So you see here, lower production costs. So if it costs us less to produce products, it means that we can sell more products to other countries. So if we are very smart with how we spend our money, we can rather sell to other countries. And then the fourth reason for supply side reason for international trade is infrastructure development. So if we have efficient ports by the sea, if we have roads that can take our products to other countries, if we have better communication, it will be easy for us again to sell products to what? To other countries. So when we go back to our question, it says name one supply reason for international trade. I just gave you four. Number one would be abundance of natural resources, skilled labor, advanced technology, cost advantages, or infrastructure development. All right. And then let's move on to the next question. And then the next question says, briefly describe what international trade is. I've been talking about international trade. I did say it in the first question, but to explain it a little bit further. So what is international trade? Is the buying and selling of goods and services between two countries. Remember, I said inter and what? And national. I said it here, international, between two or more countries. So international simply means between two or more countries. And then trade is the exchange of goods and services. When you combine the two, you get what? You get the buying and selling of goods and services between countries, two or more. So what does it involve? It involves exports. So exports is when us as South Africa, we sell to another country. And then import is when we are buying from another country, enabling countries to access resources and products that are not available local. So let's say, for instance, like I said, that an example of an iPhone, if we don't have it in South Africa, what do we do? We import it, right? And if we have excess gold, what do? We export it. So here it's we don't have if you don't have an iPhone, we import it. Now, if we have excess gold, what do? We export. We have. So if we don't have, we import. If we have, we export. So that's basically the whole meaning or description of what international trade is. So moving along as quick as possible so that we can finish the paper. So 2.3.4, explain the theory of comparative advantage in trading of goods and services. Remember the word comparative advantage. It was stated there. I said you must look at these words. I said you must look at trade, comparative advantage, and globalization, right? So to give you rather a definition of what globalization is, to put it in simple terms, let me just put it here to rather explain what globalization is. Okay, let's go here. So I want to quickly explain or rather define for you what globalization is. Globalization, right? So globalization is the process. Okay, sorry about that. Let's just erase it. Yes, it's the process of international. Remember the word international? Integration. International what? International integration involving, okay, sorry for that, involving the interchange of world views. So what happens is that countries will come together to do what? to, let's just do that. Okay. To present their ideas to the world. Okay, let me get this quickly. So here it is. So the process of international integration involving the interchange of world views. That's what globalization is. It's when countries come together to present their ideas, their worldly views or ideas to the world. So let's say uh, China wants um, economic growth, and then the USA wants global citizenship, and then Russia will want um, less tourism, right? So these will be China's worldviews, the USA's worldviews, and the Russia's worldviews. They then come and do what? They integrate, they combine all these three views to do what? To come to a world view. So this is when countries come together to present their ideas to the world. China will present the idea of economic growth, USA will present the idea of global citizenship, and then Russia will present the idea of less tourism. So I'll just giving you a whole, or rather a brief definition of what globalization is about. All right. All right. So to our let's move on to our question. Let's move on to our question. So that is what globalization. As I said, you must focus on these words. Okay, let's move on to our next question. Explain the theory of comparative advantage. Did we do that one? Let's focus quickly. Okay, yes, that's where we are. Explain the theory of comparative advantage in trading of goods and services. So what is comparative advantage? Guys, don't forget the definition of globalization. I was just giving you a brief definition of what globalization is. So now let's look at comparative advantage. So comparative advantage refers to a country's ability to produce a particular good or services. Now let's focus here. Their ability. It means that how good a country is at what? At producing a particular good or services. Right? That's the first part. This is the first part. A comparative advantage refers to a country's ability, how good they are at producing a particular good or services at a lower opportunity cost than another country. Right? At a lower opportunity cost than another country. So let's break down this whole example. Let's break down the whole example. Right? Let's quickly rub off here and let's break down the whole example of, or the whole definition of what comparative advantage is. So they say here it refers to a country's ability to produce a particular good or services. Number one, comparative advantage. Comparative advantage. Number one is that that country needs to be good at producing that product. That's number one. Number one, the country needs to be good at producing that product. It refers to the ability to produce a particular good or service. Number one, they need to be good at producing. So to do what? To achieve comparative advantage. Number one, a country needs to be good at producing that product. And then the second one, they must produce this product at a lower opportunity cost. At a what? A lower opportunity cost. So what does opportunity cost means? Right? So let's just say at a lower. So number one, they need to be good at producing that product at what? At a lower opportunity cost, opportunity cost. What is this word? What's this word that sounds fancy? So opportunity cost simply means that if a country produces eggs and milk, right? So the opportunity cost would be losing one of the two because of, let's say, low income to the country. So let's say if a country is good at producing eggs, if a country is good at producing eggs, but they also produce milk, they will sacrifice, they will sacrifice producing, okay, let's just, okay, they will sacrifice producing eggs. Remember, a country is good at producing eggs. They will sacrifice producing milk because of what? Because of the amount of money that they get from eggs. So this will, the milk will be their opportunity. They sacrifice producing that low income product. So do you understand? So let's say a country produces eggs and milk, right? So opportunity cost means losing one of the two products. They lose either eggs or milk because of low income. So a country can produce more eggs at an efficient or a more higher income. So what they do, uh, they sacrifice eggs for the milk. So they'll rather produce more eggs and make more money and stop producing the milk. So the milk becomes the what? The opportunity cost. All right. So what is comparative advantages? It refers to a country's ability to produce a particular good or service. They must be good at it at a lower opportunity cost than another country. It means that if we compare the opportunity, if we compare how Nigeria produces their eggs and their milk and how South Africa produces their eggs and their milk, we'll see which country produces the two or rather the one of the products at a much lower price or much lower cost. So opportunity cost simply means which, or rather comparative advantage, which country spends less to produce. So comparative advantage means which country spends less to produce that particular product. So here's a theory. A country should specialize in producing and exporting goods it can produce more efficiently. This is where we come more efficient. This is where we come to the eggs and the milk. If you rather know, or if your country is more good at producing eggs, rather focus on producing eggs and sacrifice it for the milk because the milk is not bringing in what income. So a country should specialize in producing and exporting goods it can produce more efficiently. In this case, it will be what? Your eggs. So that is your comparative advantage. So let's go back to the question. What does the question require from us? Remember, guys, always remember to answer the question. So it says, explain the theory of comparative advantage in trading of goods and services. We just did that. It's about how much less a country can spend on producing a product, which will be advantageous for them and the competition. So for instance, as I said, if two countries are producing eggs and milk, and it takes less, let's say it's Nigeria versus South Africa, it takes less, right? It takes less for South Africa to produce those eggs and milk, right? Let's say uh, Nigeria versus SA. So let's say it costs SA 15 rand to produce what? Eggs and milk. But it takes Nigeria 25 rand, right? But it takes Nigeria 25 rand to produce eggs and milk. It means that SA has the what? SA has the competitive rather. Is it comparative or competitive? The words are about, it's comparative, comparison. So it's comparative, not competitive, it's comparative. So it means that South Africa has what? It has comparative advantage because they can produce more or rather the same amount of products with a less cost of producing those products. So that is what your comparative advantage, right? So let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the next question. All right, let's move on to the next question. How can economy levels lead to international trade? How can sorry. How can income levels, the amount of money people get, not economy, guys, excuse my mistake. How can income levels lead to international trade? How can income levels lead to international trade? So let's get into that. How can income levels lead to international trade? So number one, if we have a higher income, if there's higher income levels, it increases demand for imports. Rather doing what? Asking for more products. So let's say, for instance, people are earning more than they used to, but there are no products in South Africa. What will happen is that there will be demand for other products which are not available in South Africa. So that increases what? It increases imports. So if we have more money, but there's no products in the country, then that will eventually increase our imports. So it says as people earn more, they demand a wider variety. So more goods. So they want products that are not available in South Africa. A wider variety of goods and services, including foreign products, because they're not available, right? And then because of income levels, increased purchasing power, people will have now the power to spend. Higher income means consumers and businesses can afford imported luxury or specialized goods that are what? That are not available in SA. So now because people have money, they import more luxurious goods. So that's basically what will happen, or rather that's basically how income levels will lead to international trade. So people having more money, they'll have a more desire, or likely have a larger desire to have products that might be unavailable in South Africa, right? And then going to 2.4, discuss the product market within a circular flow. Remember, the product market is where the goods and services are being exchanged, right? So let's rather go to the definition. The product market is where goods and services are bought and sold. Again, exchange of goods and services represents the transaction between households and consumers. So the consumers buy products from what? From the firms or what? Businesses. Remember, firms also can be written as businesses or producers, right? So let's go back to the question. It says, discuss the product market. How is it? What are the characteristics of a product market in the circular flow? What are the characteristics? So in the circular flow, households demand goods and services and pay money in return. So they'll buy from firms. Number two, firms supply these goods and services to earn revenue. Remember, When they buy, they pay the firms. This interaction determines the prices and output levels. How much money is being made by the firms? How much money is made, right, by the firms? And then government and foreign sectors may also participate by buying or selling goods and services from where? From the firms. I remember when we talk about the foreign sector, we talk about the foreign exchange, or rather the international trade. This is where international trade comes in along. So let's rather put it here, the foreign sector, where now countries exchange goods and services. That becomes part of the foreign sector. And now lastly, it is vital. This is a vital component. The production market is a vital component of the circular flow as it reflects the real flow, which is the goods and services. Guys, if you had been studying and you have been learning economics from grade 8, you know what the real flow is, and you know what the money flow is. You know which market regulates, or rather, which market is part of the real flow, and which market, or rather, which participant part of the real flow or the money flow, right? The real flow will be your firms, and then your money flow will be your financial institutions, even though these two combine or connect. Because in order for you to get goods and services, you need to pay money. In order for you to pay money to get goods and services. So these two, like I said, remember, if you watch the first part of the video, go back to YouTube Metric Hub and watch the first part. It was illustrated on the video how the circular flow connects with each other, right? So let's see if we answered our question. Discuss the product market within a circular flow. Did we discuss it? Yes. Households demand, pay money in return. Firms supply these goods and services. This interaction depends prices and output levels, how much money is made by the firms and how much money is paid by the consumers. Government and foreign sectors may also participate, and the production or the product market is a vital, a very important participant or component in the circular flow. And then let's go to our last question. Okay. And now, how can an improvement in terms of trade affect, guys, again, understand your questions precisely. Understand your questions precisely. Don't just answer to answer the question. Try to understand what the question requires from you. All right? Try to understand what the question requires from you. How can an improvement, so what now? We want to know if we improve in terms of trade, how can an improvement in terms of trade affect the South African economy? So if we improve trade, how can it affect our economy as a country? If we improve trading, how can it affect? Will it either be in a positive manner or rather a negative manner? But precisely if we improve trade, it will most likely be in a positive way. But there are also negativities within that improvement of trade. So how can, when we improve trade, how can it affect the economy of South Africa? So let's rather quickly look at that. All right. As we move here. So first things first, let's discuss what are or what is the terms of trade, right? So the terms of trade is to measure the ratio of export prices. So in simple writing, I'm just going to write it for you here. Terms of trade. Terms of trade. These are the terms of trade. It's export, import. Right? It's export, import. Is export larger than import? Is export equals to import? And then is export smaller or, yeah, it's smaller than import. So these are the terms of trade in simple terms. So terms of measure the ratio of export prices to import prices. We measure these exports to see, is it larger, is it equals to, is it smaller than? An improvement means export prices rise relative to import. So this right here will be our what? Our improvement. This right here will be our improvement if exports are larger than our import. So those are the terms of trade. Is export larger, equals to, or smaller than import? So again, let's go back to the questions. How can an improvement in terms of trade. In terms of trade, remember, in terms of trade affect the South African economy. If we improve, what might happen to the country? Number one, higher export earnings, meaning the country will sell more products. Higher export earnings, meaning the country will sell more. And it says here more income from the same value of exports, right? We'll sell more, right? Or rather, not necessarily sell more. Let's say more income. So in terms of trade here, let's rather put it in understandable terms. In terms of prices, the prices of export, the prices of income, but it's still the same. The price of export is larger or smaller than the prices of imports, right? So the effect of improved terms of trade is that there will be a higher export earnings, more income will be coming into the country. And then number two, improved trade balance. Exports become more valuable, possibly exceeding imports. Remember the trade balance, we talked about it in the first video. It's where exports are equals to imports. Mara, all in all, terms of trade or the trade balance is all, or it all has to do with exports and imports, whether our exports are increasing or decreasing. And if they increase, how much money are we getting from our exports, or how much money are we losing? And if you're getting more imports, how much money is being taken out of the country, and how much money is getting into the country, right? So that is rather the whole of our question 2.3, and those are all the answers for this video. So please, guys, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this if you enjoy it. Please tell your family and friends. Thank you.